Hello, how's it going? Let's click this. Oh, not that. Let's click this way. It has been a little bit, folks. How's it going? Happy Friday to you. And yeah, back to the stream. Hopefully you've all been well. I have been busy with a multitude of things that have been keeping me from streaming. But I am glad that we can actually get back to streaming now on a Friday and doing some development work, doing some coding. I'm looking forward to that. So if you have any good news, anything you want to share, feel free to share it in the chat. You're more than welcome to, because it is always great to hear what other people are doing and good news that they might have. Let's see. What sort of status updates could I give about myself? Okay, well, one is I submitted a talk for GraphQL Summit that is in October in San Diego, and I am happy to report that. Just adjust this camera. And I'm happy to report that that talk got accepted. So that's really exciting. So in October, I will be speaking at GraphQL Summit on the topic of security. Good news is it's sunny here for now. Oh no. Oh man, the weather has been wild everywhere around the country. It has been absolutely wild. I am here in San Diego. It's been cloudy and kind of like foggy in the mornings and stuff like that. Luckily, the weather mild. Became a lot more mild than all the rain before. But then there's like crazy weather like in Florida where it's raining an insane amount. Other good news is so that's in October for GraphQL Summit, and then I am heading over to RailsConf. So RailsConf is at the end of the month in Atlanta. So I will be heading over to RailsConf to give a talk, or not to give a talk, to hopefully participate in a session, in a panel session, and then just meeting people and just getting plugged in with the Rails community and learning all sorts of cool stuff. Looks like I got a reminder from my Stream Closed Captioner extension to turn on closed captions. So let's go ahead and honor that. Let's log in and get the captions going. Yes, that's gonna be fun. I did submit a talk, a conference talk for RailsConf, but it didn't get accepted. It got basically put on the B string, on the second string, where like if someone drops out of the conference, then my talk would be in the pool for as a backup. So because of that, even though I don't have a scheduled talk at RailsConf, I still need to work on a talk just in case if while I'm there, they're going to call me up to the big leagues, from and to give a talk. So I don't want to be caught unprepared. So I still have to do that, even though I'm not explicitly going to be giving a talk. So that's a little nerve-wracking. But yeah, that's some news for myself. Let's stop talking about myself and let's get to doing a little bit of coding. Great. So the focus for today is someone on the RedwoodJS Discord was looking for instructions on deploying their RedwoodJS application to Azure, and they were coming across issues doing so. And I believe this issue had to do more with the backend side of things. But since they're having issues, let's dive into it. Let's go through the instructions and let's see what's changed and what we need to update in order to get the process working again, because there's not that many guides out there for RedwoodJS in terms of deploying to Azure. So we need to try to update our guide so we can help others. That's the goal. Alrighty, so let me try to pull up that guide. Let's see, is it under quick help? I might need to just pull up I'll just pull up actually it might be easier just to pull up our blog itself at Coding Zeal, and then going through that. That might be significantly easier to do. RedwoodJS, here we go. And then, here we go. So we're gonna go through the motions. Basically, we're just gonna go through the guide and then see where we end up at the end of it in terms of trying to get our app up and running and working. So let us do all of that. But Fox, you got any good news or anything to share? Otherwise, it's fine. Anything you're learning, all the just those nice, simple things. Okay. So we have to go through the motions exactly like we did. So the follow-up guide, where I take you through the steps necessary to deploy Redwood. Actually, let's go through the first guide. Going through. Ooh, that link is broken. Okay, I'll have to make a note of that later so that we can fix that on the website. Okay, here we go. So let's go through the motions of going through Azure. So I am going to quickly hide my screen just in case. Because portal azure.com. Just to make sure I don't leak my own credentials. Ooh, I don't have Bitwarden installed on this profile. That's not the password. This is the password. Copy password, paste password. Oh, that's because I'm logging into the wrong account. There we go. No. Nope, we don't want to do that. We do want this. Alrighty, I think we're safe to jump into things again. Okay. Alrighty, so let's go through the motions. So we're going to be creating an Azure Static Web App. Let's put both of these windows side by side so we don't have to swap between the two. And so we want to create a resource. So let's create a resource. And we need to go to static web apps. click create. And we're going to go ahead and use that. And then let's create a resource group. And we will create a new one and we'll just call it Redwood Apps. And then we will call this tests Redwood. And we're fine with the hobby tier. The region doesn't matter. We're going to be using GitHub. And we currently do not have actually, we currently don't even have a Redwood app yet to point to. So I think we're going to have to prior to doing this, we need to go ahead and try scaffolding up a Redwood application to push to GitHub. And I don't think I have one available to use, at least not one that's up to date. So we will need to go through the motions of adding a Redwood app, an up-to-date Redwood app. Let's see. We have the Redwood starter. Why is that tilted there? Okay. See, this Redwood Ghosts one, I don't think. So this is the original one we were using for setting up Redwood, but let's start from scratch because we need to test an actual use case where someone is starting from square one. Okay. Let me make sure that. Okay. So yarn Redwood, create Redwood app, and then we're going to be doing this test Redwood deploy. That's the name of our app. We're not going to bother with TypeScript because we're just trying to get this to go. So this can take a hot minute. So we'll let it stew for a little bit, and I will just check the interwebs for anything new going on. In the meantime, that page is frozen. Here we go. Let's see here. Compatibility check failed. Required, but you have 6.2. This may take a minute. Override error and continue to install. Let's switch to MVM use 18. I do have MVM 18 installed. Maybe I need to update my node configurations such that it just uses 18 by default, so I don't have to keep on dealing with this issue. I need to do the same thing with Ruby also. Let's just use JavaScript instead of TypeScript. Do you want to initialize the repo? Yes, I do. So StreamYard added custom layouts. So while we're waiting for this to run, I'm curious about doing a custom layout. Let's see. So added, you can add an item, dynamic camera grid. What is a dynamic camera grid? Got it. What happens if I don't want this? Add a camera slot. So what I want to do is I want to do a camera slot that is like here in the bottom right corner, and I want to do media slot, and I want to do the media slot. So basically, I want to do the inverse of push this up. Hey, Jason. How's it going? Can you see what I'm doing? You can't. Oh, that's interesting. Like I'm playing around with this. It's still keeping the other layout while I'm playing with the new layout while this is running. That is interesting. Okay, so that means then I can save this and then right small. Okay, and then ta-da! Look at that. Ooh. So yeah, I made a StreamYard lets you do layouts, so now I made a one where we can toggle the position of the camera, which is great because I actually need that right now because the terminal window is on the left side, so my camera would be covering it up. So like, oops, I'm gonna cover it up. Not gonna cover it up anymore. Do. This is gonna take a little bit. It's interesting how it's generating types. This must have to do with Prisma, because I thought I told it not to do TypeScript, so this must be Prisma doing stuff. Okay. So after this is done, what we will do is I think we'll just deploy it as is without the database just to get the ball rolling, because we just want to get a successful deployment all the way through. So we're going to do the static web app first, and then we're going to do the back end. And then we can try to do everything in between. Is converting the TypeScript files to JavaScript actually more of a heavy lift for it? Because it did a call out for that. All right, let's CD. We finished that step. Let's CD into it. Let me make this nice and big. And then yarn redwood dev. Alrighty. And the app's alive. Okay. That's all we needed to know, or all we needed to see, not know. Let's try to get, all right. Let's try to get this pushed. So we're going to open this up in VS Code and try to get this repository created and pushed up to GitHub. So then we can do the Azure deployment process for this. Probably build this deploy, so do that. To probably build and deploy the RedwoodJS app side, we require custom configuration. Okay. I need to close this window, close that window, close this window, close this window. Okay. Had a couple too many windows open up. Okay, so let's try to sign. Wants to sign in using GitHub. Okay, I'm gonna have to hide my screen for this. So let's do that real quick. Okay. So we're gonna publish this to a public repository. All right, it has successfully been pushed to GitHub. Now let us go through the motions of configuring the Azure Static Web App. So we did that. We set Central US. We say we're going to do GitHub. Now let's check. Now let's go through selecting our repository. We should have test Redwood deploy. There it is. And our branch is going to be the main branch. And then we are going to be doing a custom build configuration. In our custom build configuration, it's going to be / and API location going to be empty. And then our output location is going to be web distribution, because that's where the web portion of it will build in the RedwoodJS workflow. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and create our application, our static web app on Azure. And now it's going to go through the motions of setting up that deployment. And it looks like it is done. Weird. My Notion app just opened up on its own. Okay. So by default, Azure Static Web Apps is going to be setting up is going to commit a GitHub action to our repository that is actually in charge of setting up the build process. So pulling down the repository, pulling down the changes that GitHub committed to the repository, we can see this workflow file now, this GitHub action workflow file. So when using run, which is correct, which requires you to build your web front end using yarn redwood build. So now we're gonna have to do a little bit of code changes to our app. So application, output location, and then we need to change our app build command is the thing that needs to change. And our app, I can type it out or I can just copy it. And then we want to skip the API build because the API is going to be hosted elsewhere. All right, let us go ahead. Do I have the GitHub action? So there's supposed to be an extension for GitHub Actions, an official one. Do I have it installed? I don't. Oh, okay, I have it installed on this profile. That's what it is. I love this theme. So much gentler on my eyes. I'm going to go ahead and reload this since it installed the GitHub Actions extension. I'm just curious to see if it's going to help with any other insights. Oh yeah, so here, like, it connects to the GitHub action on the repository. I might need to actually I've encountered this before where it's like unable to connect. I think I had to like completely restart VS Code in order for this to work. But I digress with this. So let's finish this, and based off the thing, action to work with Redwood. Let's see. Okay, great. Look, it's we can actually see the workflow running now. So we don't have to go to GitHub now. We can actually see our GitHub action moving and grooving. And then we can click the web icon to actually see. So we can't see the logs here, but if we click this, we should be able to go to it. But let's go to it, not using that browser window. Let's go to it this way. Because I want to see the logs. Alrighty. Something's happening in there. Something is happening. So it looks like it did run the build. And then it set some assets. No API directory specified. Azure functions will not be created. Either no API or specified. So that's cool. And then So now we can go to our site. It looks like it completed. So it's saying that we can go to our site and see something. But the guide says we're gonna hit a 404 page. So we could see that the Redwood app did run. How's it treating y'all? It is doing pretty good. I'm getting back into it because I was on vacation and hadn't had a chance to really do anything with it for the past 2 to 3 weeks. So getting back into the swing of things. We're working on double checking the release cycle, the release steps for Azure, because someone had reported the steps that aren't working. One of the steps wasn't working, at least for the server side. So I am doing a full audit on the guide for deploying the front end and the back end for it. So that's what we're doing right now. We're doing the front end portion of it. But Pie McFly, thanks for saying hello over on the YouTube side, and Brad is over on the Twitch side. How you doing, Brad? Hopefully you've been doing well. Haven't had a chance to see you too much on the Compressed FM's chats or streams. Yeah, so this is a call out for 401 page. So yes, we hit the Redwood. We just got the 404 page, which is called out. So to fix this problem, we have to configure the Azure Static Web App to fall back to all requests to index HTML so RedwoodJS can handle them. So create a file called Azure Static Web App config.js. So now we have to go back into the repository and we have to create that file. Got a new camera set up with my M1 and it's giving me issues. So I've talked about this plenty of times, but my new camera setup is actually using my iPhone. So this right here is the iPhone. And it has been, and it is great. Yeah, originally I was thinking about getting an A6000, like one of the Sony cameras. Let's see what either this A6000 or the A5100 or 5100, whatever it was. But then when I tried out the phone, I was like, oh dang, this is good. And then I have an iPad, so I still get all my notifications, all my emails on my iPad. So I have no FOMO about using my phone as a camera because all my texts, any calls and stuff like that can still get forwarded to my iPad. How's the connectivity with the iPhone? It's great. So there's two different ways to do the connectivity for the iPhone. So if you're streaming straight off of your Mac computer, you can do the continuity camera. Hey, Lily. Welcome back. Long time no see. How have you been? But so if you're streaming directly off your Mac, you can use the continuity camera feature, which is just super simple. The other way, the other thing you can do is Elgato has like a cam app. It's paid for. I think it's like $10 maybe, that you can install on your phone, and it will link up with the Elgato Cam software, so you can use your phone as a webcam on Windows also, because the continuity camera feature only works on Mac. But if you're streaming off a Windows PC, you can do that, and it makes it really easy and really seamless to do it that way. All right, let's get this copied and pasted in here. Now let's commit that change. You've been busy. I've seen you busy on LinkedIn, Lily. You're not on Twitch, but you're sure as heck busy on LinkedIn, promoting all those AWS like advocates and developers and initiatives and all type of good stuff. I've come to love LinkedIn. Nice. All right, so fix routing. Alrighty, so let's sync that change, and then we should see a new Azure action kickoff to start that deployment. So it took 7 minutes last time. I'm curious to see if it's going to take 7 minutes this time. I'm not sure if this action is configured with caching or anything. It looks like it's just the build process. I'll be curious to see what happens. How long this takes. Let's read ahead and see what else is going on. So configure RedwoodJS front end API URL. So this gets into the API side of things, of pointing to where our API will be. We're not at this stage yet, so I think once we verified that everything runs and we get the index page for our RedwoodJS application, then we'll jump over to the next guide to work on deploying the API side, and we'll leave this We'll leave this for when we finish the server side deployment. Let's see, does this link work? This link does work. Good. And I think this one's the one that didn't work. Oh no, that one didn't work. So the guide we just went through, I'm gonna post it in the chat in case everyone is. So that is for deploying a RedwoodJS app using Azure Static Web Apps, but also Azure Static Web Apps is a great solution if you just have a static web application that you just want to deploy and host. It's much easier than trying to figure out how to do it on AWS. I'm not sure if AWS has a better way to do it, has a better, easier way to do it now, but Azure treats static web apps as a first-class citizen in terms of like a dedicated application that you can set up a deployment process and monitor instead of just like configuring an S3 bucket. And it's free. It's free. And they also have it like tightly coupled where you can you can also couple it with serverless functions too. So you can pair your web app, your static web app with serverless functions and deploy it that way. Unfortunately, RedwoodJS can't utilize that at the moment because RedwoodJS's interface, you can't beat free. You can't beat the low cost of free. But RedwoodJS serverless functions don't work on Azure because they're at the moment they are implemented to use the AWS type interface. So they're compatible with services that host serverless functions that uses AWS's like call stack interface. Azure has a different call stack kind of interface, so they're not compatible. So in the next guide that we're going to go through the motions of trying to deploy the Redwood server side, or the Redwood as a server instead of trying to deploy the functions themselves, because Redwood is flexible in that manner. You can choose to host the functions as serverless, or you can actually just throw it on a server. Oh, it looks like the deployment finished. Let's see. So that was a lot quicker because it probably cached a lot of the layers. Let's see. Oh no. 404 page not found. I wonder if this has to do with I just need to make a page. I think I need to make a page. I think we just need to go and make a page. Let's see. Let's go through and make a welcome page. I always forget how to do this. So we will generate a home page. Let's make this mo bigger. So do you have any exciting news to share, Lily? Anything cool that you want to promote on the AWS side of things? Did you go on an awesome vacation maybe? That's where I was for a week. I went on a vacation to the Caribbean. I keep on screwing up whether it's Caribbean or Bahamas, but so we went on a 5-day trip. It was refreshing. It was refreshing. All right, so we got to set up this route here for this. I originally had plans to do stuff. Oh, cool. It already added it in, I think. Okay, let's see. Yarn. The computer is slugging right now. And the computer is slugging it right now. Let's try to reduce some resources for our computer. We'll go ahead and close this for now. We don't need this hogging up resources. Yeah, there we go. I can hear the music getting faster in the background. Always a good sign. Is that something new that they did for the Redwood? I could have sworn that it didn't add the path before. Did they update something? I had to check the change logs. I haven't checked the change logs again in the past like 3 weeks. And Redwood team, it iterates fast on stuff. All right, we got a homepage running. Let's go ahead and commit this and push this and see whether we get add. Let's add the scaffold homepage. So I think today's stream, well, definitely today's stream is going to run a little bit longer because I do have a set goal, and that is today is to do the static deployment, but then also test the server deployment for this. And because typically we'll do a full stop on the hour, but since I have a goal that we have today, we need to push through. Because I don't want to leave people leave people hanging out to dry when it comes to stuff that they need help with. There we go. So this should deploy a lot faster now because it's utilizing the caching. So all it has to do now is actually deploy the application. We shall wait. I wonder if I could optimize the build, because I believe Redwood, so this is just a slight tangent, but I think okay, we are already optimizing the build. We're only building the website. So that's the thing I wanted to check. I wanted to make sure we're not also building the API side for no good reason. Looks like the build finished. Now it's uploading the assets. So I have a question for everyone. So do you all do like a self-admin day on the weekend or sometime during the week where you just like kind of sit down and just like work out like stuff you have planned or whatever? Not a cleaning day or anything like that, like a self-admin day where you're just trying to like hammer out all these things that you want to do and organize and, you know, all type of stuff. If you do that, how often do you do that? And do you just do it at home? Do you do it at a coffee shop? What is your process for your self-admin day? So Lily, definitive yes. Jason, definitive no. When I do it, which is, so let's see. So let's take a list. So when I do it, which is once a month, I do it at home. But I love the idea of going to the library and doing it there. Sometimes I work from the library. Ooh. Very cool. And then Jason, I need to find a way to keep my goals, tasks that are right in my face. If I make a list or whatever, it just becomes a work to remember to look at it. I 100% agree with that, Jason. Post-its on the monitor. Yeah, I guess like if it's part of your workflow to like use physical medium, then doing post-its and stuff like that becomes very valuable. There we go, homepage. Okay, so the steps for doing the static web app are good. My string dev to be a dashboard. So I haven't really shared this all too much, but I do have, and this is thanks to my lovely wife that introduced me to it. But everyone knows I've used Notion pretty heavily in one way or the other. Let me log in real quick. Or am I already logged in? Okay, I'm already logged in, so I can show this. One of the things she introduced me to is this. It's a paid for template, first of all, because there's Notion templates all over the place for doing different stuff. But this person named Thomas Frank, he's probably, if you like enjoy Notion and you've looked at tips for how to use Notion, you've probably seen one of his YouTube videos, because he's like one of the go-to guys in terms of SEO that you hit. And he created this thing called like the Ultimate Brain, which is a combination of different mediums of habit tracking, note taking, and all that type of stuff. And you can use it in different ways, but there's mediums for journaling, for habit tracking for the day, for process planning, and other types of things. So I've been using this more and more to track things. There's a task manager view where you can have you can do all the tasks and you have a calendar for it. I don't use it all that much because I usually track tasks separately. What I am using it for 2 is for my personal projects. So there's like a project hub here where you can create projects based off different, goals or whatnot. But the project hub more connects to goals. So I've been posting more on YouTube, as some of you might know, and I have under the social media space, I have a goal of reaching 1K YouTube subscribers. So that's my goal. And then under my goals, I have milestones. And then I have these milestones that I'm tracking to try to meet in 1 year. And Pi McFly, thank you very much for that follow. Greatly appreciate that. And yeah, so here are the goals, and then these here are all like the different ideas. Like I'm trying to like do a better job inputting in of videos that I want to do or content I want to create. And then within here, there's also the templates, and all these templates already existed in this larger template. And I just customize stuff so that in here there's tasks, there's notes, there's shared resources, pulled resources. So I have created these tasks that I do that I created for my videos, and then I have these shared resources that I'm starting to get more into the habit of like inputting in. So across all the videos, I have these different shared resources for like if I needed to like look up something really quick. So this is what I'm trying to get better at of doing this and making all of this more front and center for myself to be better organized. Tangent complete, because we need to move on to the next article. Okay, so let's get on to deploying the server side. So we need to go back to the portal. And we've successfully deployed the website. Now we need to go and create the app service. And this is going to be the server side, the server that hosts our application. Let's see, tab services, under services. Interesting. Under services, let's go through here. App services. Okay, that's what it is. So we have app services. Let's create an app service. And we're going to put this under our Redwood resource group, so we can delete this at the end of all our work here. This is new. Try our new web/database experience. I'll have to look into that. So let's see here. So yeah, we're going to be using our Redwood app. Test Redwood deploy. And we're going to be using the code publish instance. And then we are going to be using the latest, and we're going to base this off of Node. We're using 18 LTS. And then an operating system, we'll stick with Linux. We'll stick to EastUS, which is fine. And then we'll stick with the current, whatever plan this is. And then we are going to stick with the basic for now plan. We're not gonna worry about, well, zone redundancy is not available for the basic plan. Under app service, I create new app service. So we'll let it auto create it to change it for you. Okay. So let's go ahead and create that. So this is probably where things break down, because this is the creation of the service is pretty much the same. The issue is going to be where we're actually doing the actual build process. Visual that. So after this resource is done, we are going to jump over. We're going to go into the resource for our app service, and we are going to go into the deployment center. Because Azure, since it is aware of GitHub, we can point it and telling it that, hey, I want you've created, the server I just created. I want the code from this repository to deploy to this server. And it will set up a GitHub action for you to do that. In the same way that the Azure Static Web Apps did that. So GitHub, and then we are going to not select coding zeal, we're going to select mine. And then Redwood, testing the Redwood deploy. We're deploying from the main. So if the selected branch is protected, you can still continue to add a workflow file. So add a workflow file. So that's the workflow file it's going to create for us, which we are going to have to customize later. Let's go ahead and click save, and then this will commit the workflow file to our repository. Let's jump over to the source code, and now we should be able to sync with our repository to look at the new workflow file that was created. So here is our new one that was just created for us. And this setup is not going to work for us. We're going to have to do some tweaks. So we're going to have to do some stuff with, so we're going to have to eject Kudu. So Kudu is the build tool that Azure uses to build our assets. And we are going to have to update our Kudu script such that it has a default one that's hosted on the server that is going to be the build server for this. We're not going to, the default one is not going to work for us because Redwood has its own commands that it runs in order to do the build process, because there is the specific Redwood commands. So we're going to have to generate that script file for that. So I ran the command for Kudu and already had it installed. And that outputs the deploy sh file that it typically would just use by default. But since we basically ejected it, it will use the one we have defined. And what we need to do is our npm install step right here is where things need to start to change. So we're not going to be using npm. First of all, we need to use yarn. The current kudu script assumes you are using npm, but really we use yarn for Redwood. So that's one thing. And then we need to update the package JSON for the API side. Update the package JSON and add the script yarn Redwood serve API using this. Let's see, we probably have to add it to the base package JSON. And then we'll need to update our GitHub action workflow that has automatically generated. Since we're leaning on our deploy sh script to do all the work, all the build steps will be stripped out. So let's see. So our build step right here, and we need to do this. Might even be able to remove the Node.js setup part too, because we're not doing the build stuff. Let's just do that anyway. We can always bring it back. The power of Git. And then we need to be able to, and then because we're hosting on a separate service, it's not, it could be any port that the server decides to run our app on. So we need to update the TOML file to tell it that, yeah, you could, it's not, you need to pull in the environment variable. You can run on 89.11, or you can run on the port that the environment variable sets on the server. Alrighty. Let's see what happens. So we updated, so deployment sh is fine. This is how it knows to use the deploy sh. We have our new deploy sh file and that we've ejected, and we've configured it. We've updated our package JSON to then use yarn Redwood serve API to start things up. Redwood TOML, and then we've updated our build script to not build during the GitHub action. Alrighty. Let us hop back over here. We just pushed our code, so that means we are going to start a new job. And there's going to be two jobs running because we have two workers. We have one that's running to deploy the static web app, and then we have one to deploy the API side. The one we know the static web app side's going to work. The one we care about is the deployment side. That's the dicey one. So since we're deploying using a zip, if I remember correctly, Ooh, here we go. Oh, we got an issue. Let's see. Copying. Ooh. All right. Yeah, so here, okay. So we hit an issue. Opt-kudo script, select node version. Error has occurred during site deployment. Unable to locate Node.js installation. So something went wrong on the build server. I believe that's what's going on here. What we can do is let's go ahead and bring back, set up the node version to see if that plays any role. But I think it's this step right here where we do the deploy. Yeah, because the build is fine, it's the deploy step. So when we push up the artifact up is where things go wrong. So the build is fine. It's when we push that artifact up to the server where then it is trying to do its thing is where things go wrong. So it's running the script on the server. Let's see if we can get some insight on what's going on. So for whatever reason, our deployment does not have Node.js installed in it. So let's see here. Let's try to figure out exactly what line failed on. So it failed on trying to select a node version. So select node version. Where does it call this? It calls it right here. And it fails in here. So the script is set up to check if Node.js is there. The problem occurs when this step here, when it's trying to select one. Gotta head out for a meeting, but it was great to hang out for a bit. Have a great weekend. You too, Lily. Have a great weekend. Thanks for stopping by. Okay. So This error and this error are the same. Now we got to dig in and figure out what the heckums is happening. Let's see. I don't think there's any configurations I can really do here to help us. I'll go ahead and hide my screen real quick. Or actually, let's do this. Okay. Let me check some configurations so I don't accidentally leak something. So we are set up with node 18. All right, let's go back over here and let us, so Azure Web App Docs. Let's see. That guy doesn't help. Let's see, app domain, app with DB, custom containers, connect to Azure resources, user, CDNs, GitHub action, no, samples, no. Let's see, Azure CLI, configure an app, create an app. Let's see, continuously deploy from GitHub. No, because that's Azure CLI. We're not dealing with the Azure CLI. Deployment best practices. Let's take a look at that. So, Kudu endpoints. Kudu is the open source developer productivity tool that runs a separate process in Windows App Service and has a second container and Linux App Service. By default, Kudu executes build steps in your node application npm install. If you're using a build service such as Azure DevOps, then Kudu build is unnecessary. To disable Kudu build, we're not doing that. Let's see, configure Node.js. Let's see what this says. We're already configured with Node.js. Let me check one thing here. Yeah, okay. Actually, advanced tools. Okay, well, let's keep on going this way. So you deploy your app using Git or zip packages with build automated animation enable. App service build automation steps through the following sequences: pre-built script path, runs npm install without any flags, which includes npm install pre-install and post-install, npm run build, npm run build Azure for build Azure scripts is specified in your package. Let's open up that in a tab. For more information on how to run app service runs builds and Node.js apps in Linux. So we're not using the PM2 flow, we're just using the regular npm start. So none of that directly calls out any sort of configuration to play Azure. Let's see. So deploy zip, when you deploy a zip package, so this is kind of indirectly what we're doing. All these different steps. So I don't see anything that's screaming out to me. Let's see if we can just lean on the regular search engines of stuff. Deploy. I think this is what we were just looking at right now. Yeah, so Azure Web App Kudu. Let us try to restrict this to the past year. Identifying the build provider. Using particular Node.js framework is defined in package JSON. If yes, try to default Node.js version assigned. Validate Node.js framework, supported that. Parent process crashed. So this is plenty of different things. Oh, here we go. TypeScript, errors installing dependencies, cannot find, failed to compile using JavaScript frameworks, not compatible with Node.js version. I've gotten this before, but this is not our issue. No space left on device. Ooh, here we go. And then this is the one. This is the one we're getting. It's just like that you're not using Kudu service build orgs. Instead, you're building remotely. Kudu container will consider this deployment as a raw external build and extract the build assets into the home page to the root if your app container without building it again. Here's the most common thing to review when dealing with these deployment issues. Validate how modules were built. Isolate the issue occurring in a specific job or phases. Is the issue occurring before deployment? If yes, enable logging. If deploy, if files Node.js. So let's see. So this is the one. This is pretty much close to the one we're getting. Validate if the basic builder is picked from Azure script command. Customize script legacy. Validate if Node.js executable is inside the script. Use the orcs build instead. Okay. How do we do that then? How do we use that then? So it looks like we found our solution. How do we use our solution? That solution. There we go. Let's check the source here. Using the Orcs builder. Orcs is a build system automatically compiles. It's used with an integrated part of Kudu. Okay. Let's see about Kudu itself. See the documentation. I feel like we're close. Just need to figure out how to specify that we use the right node. Let me look at this error again. It's like it errored out elsewhere. Kodu selected node version command, deployment source, deployment target, deployment temp. What? Okay. I am just curious. What happens if we turn off that? Shot in the dark. Do not select node version. Enable consistent deployment with GitHub. Deployment branch. All right, we need to keep an eye on that deployment. Not the Azure static, but this one right here. It's definitely shot in the dark. But now that I know what the problem is, at least I feel comfortable. We can kind of do a pause on the stream and I can spend a little bit of time, extra time on the side, looking specifically into this deployment issue. But we figured out where the problem is. We just need to work on figuring out the proper solution for us. There was instructions for Kudu somewhere that I dug this up. It might have been this website. Custom deployment script. Someone is at the front door. So I found the deployment script. Since we're at the coup, I wonder if anyone's reported issues with Node here. Not working to GitHub Actions deploy. Boom. We found someone's reference. So we're not alone. We're not alone in our problem. Okay. Let's see. Yes, the issue has been resolved. For some reason, we don't know the setting for C script generator args node was in the app service config. Since our complete build is done already, was set to false. Although it's working for a long time. We assume that due to the update of the runtime image, something's changed that caused the issue. With the support of Microsoft, we finally used the following settings. Basic. Deployment working. So here's the Oryx build option that was referenced in that other thing. This build is taking quite a bit. Can we see this build running over here? So we might need to add into the configuration file that, oops, because this person says that it needs to use the Oryx, whatever it's called. So enable Oryx. So this person pointed to the configuration over here. So this deployment is still running. So I think the thing that the thing we just disabled is just letting the, seems like it's just letting the deployment hang from the looks of it. So I want to bring that back. Let's see. Whoops. Go back to the app service and then go back to the deployment center and then come on. Oh, it thinks we're in the deployment center, that's why. I clicked on it too quickly. Okay. Why is this? Is my internet just slow or is this thing just slow? Because come on. Okay, we'll just leave that running. Let's see. Ooh. It is running. So skipping the selection for the node version did work. So now it is now it's just taking an eternity and a half to do the build process, it looks like. Because it's doing all this. It's just taking a long time to do it. It's working though. It's working. Okay, we found so I did find a short-term fix. For this, just skipping the node selection step altogether, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a foolproof fix. I'll let this run. This is taking a really long time to do it. It's probably using up a lot of the resources on this dev box, is what my guess is. But I'll keep an eye on it. There's no point keeping the stream running while we're just looking at logs. So let us sign off now. don't select a node version. So I'll keep an eye on this, but everyone, thanks so much for lurking and saying hello. I greatly appreciate you all. Thank you very much for the company. I will be back again streaming on the Zeal channel next Friday. So I hope to catch you there. Otherwise, give me a follow on Twitter. Check me out on YouTube and or LinkedIn or whatever, and keep an eye out for a new content that I will be posting. And yeah, appreciate you all. So thank you very much for hanging out. I will see you next time. Peace.